lecture session, we are going to talk about which digital media to use for a particular firm. Now, this answer that depends really upon what are the objectives of the business. So the business may have objectives of different types. For example, their immediate objective may be to drive new sales, or their objective could be to increase brand awareness or reach out to entirely new consumers, right? So let's focus on the first of these objectives, which is of driving sales for this brand. So the answer to this question really converts into that how can I influence consumers to buy more, right? So the business objective gets mapped on to some kind of a consumer behavior that you want to create. To understand the consumer behavior better, of course, we have to look into the consumer journey. Now, as we know, the consumer journey depends upon various stages, and consumers go through these stages as they progress on their decision to buy a product, right? So the consumer initially becomes aware about a particular product or service by a brand, and then they move on to actively consider this product or service. After their active consideration, if they like this product or service, then they create a preference for that, right? And at the end, at this stage, they have preference of 2 or 3 different competing alternatives. So after that, something must happen for them to choose one of the options for which they have created a preference for and convert into buying that particular product. So this is the action stage in the consumer journey. And after buying the service or product, if they like it, then they will form eventually a loyalty towards the brand. So this is the consumer journey. And if we ask ourselves that which part of the consumer journey do we directly want to influence in order to drive sales, which part of the customer journey are we looking at? Think about it for a moment. And I think the answer becomes pretty clear that if we actually want to quickly drive sales, we really want to target those consumers who have formed a preference for our product or service. And if we can somehow target them through a judicious use of digital media and convert them into action stage, which is, help them, give them some kind of a inducement or a reason to convert into buying from you, then you'll be able to quickly drive more sales. So this is a direct approach towards achieving your objective. Indirect approaches are also possible in the sense that you can look up further up the funnel and you can say that I will have an approach to use digital media to increase consumer awareness. And since I'm casting my net wider, I'll be making more number of consumers aware about my product. And so eventually, a bigger number of consumers will end up buying my product. So this is, you can think of that as an indirect approach to driving more sales. So, you can always have these two options. Okay. So what I've done on this slide out here is broken up the consumer journey into various stages. And, on the right-hand side of the funnel, I have said that, this is what is it that the consumers are doing at this stage. And towards the left, I'm talking about what kind of media actually serves that objective well. So let's take this one by one. At the top of the funnel, we have the awareness stage. And at this stage, the purpose of the brand is to find those consumers who are typically receptive to the brand messaging of this kind of brand and the product that they sell, right? So you're looking at broadly reaching those kind of consumer segments. How can you do this effectively? Well, for example, you can do non-branded search advertising. So what's non-branded search? This is the kind of search advertising that you do, which is based on not the brand word keywords, but product keywords. right? So we are going to talk a lot more about search advertising, but just as an introduction right now, the search advertising is those kind of text ads that you see while you do search on search engines like Google, right? So you get these organic search results, but you also see these sponsored ads come up as part of the search result page. Now, the advertising, these search ads that come up, they can be based either on branded keywords, which is when consumers search on the brand name of a firm, like saying LG, LG refrigerator. So if somebody is searching like that, and if the ad of LG shows up at that point of time, then it means that LG is doing, a brand based ad advertising campaign. On the other hand, if a consumer is not really typically looking for an LG at the awareness stage because they are not really maybe aware of the brand, or the brand is not at the top of their mind recall, and they might just be interested in what brand options I have available for buying a refrigerator. So therefore, for their search keywords, they might not use, say, LG, they might just say refrigerator of this size or refrigerator of this capacity. And if LG is interested in reaching out to consumers at this stage of their consumer journey, then they will have to make sure that their brand campaigns are focused on such kind of product-based keywords rather than on brand-based keywords. So this is, an example of a typical kind of search advertising. You could also think of display advertising, right? So if you are Dick's Sporting Goods, and if you want to reach out to consumers who might be interested in the products that you sell, well, you might want to show your advertising to people who are interested in sports. So you might want to show your ads to people who are reading, for example, content on the website, or on websites that relate to sports, right? So you might actually reach out to the right kind of audience through that approach. So, you can see from here that, you can use different kinds of media. You can use search advertising. You can also use display advertising, right? In order to affect the awareness stage of consumers. Moving on, think about the consideration stage. And this is the stage where consumers have some awareness about the brand, and you really want these consumers to actively consider this brand. And to do that, therefore, you might actually want to create a lot of good content on your website so that consumers, when they search for information, they can find this information. You also want to make sure that enough reviews are available about your products or service, which can also create an interest in the consumers to find out more, right? And also to start getting convinced that your product is something that they might like. At the preference stage, what you want to do is for consumers to form a preference for your brand. You want to convince consumers, right, that they should consider your product and maybe buy it, right? So those people who are already considering products, you have some idea who these people are, because they might have already searched for information on your website product pages. And therefore, you can use some kind of a display retargeting campaign to reach out to these consumers. So what does this mean, this display retargeting? This means that you actually track consumers and show your ads to those consumers who have already done some kind of an activity showing that they were considering a product. So this display retargeting means that whenever the consumers are going to different websites on the internet, you are able to track and follow these consumers and show your ads to them. Right? So this is the idea of retargeting. I'm sure many of you would actually have had this experience that you go to Amazon or to any other retailer site and you go to a product page, and after doing that, maybe you are consuming content on other websites, but you keep on seeing the ad of that shoe or that product that you are seeing, right? You can also think about a brand might want to do a branded search advertising at this stage because people are already actively considering your brand. So they might actually do brand keywords in their search on search engines. And if a search ad then shows up, then they can go to the relevant pages on your website and find the information and maybe get convinced about buying from you. Now, moving on, we have the convert stage of the customer journey, and how to actually now create incentives for people to convert after they have formed a preference for your product. And this is where you can again think about display retargeting, right? You can you can tie the idea that people have formed a preference for you based on how much they are looking for your product or service, how much they are searching for it on your website, etc. And then retarget them through display advertising. You can, if these customers have logged in and you have their email addresses, because they have logged in, so you know that these are these guys. They may have bought before in the past from you, so you can send out email reminders. You can even send out some kind of discount coupons to them through emails or through mobile, etc., in order to give them an incentive to quickly convert into purchasing from you. And finally, we have the loyalty stage, and this is where people who have already purchased from you, you want to keep them engaged, right? And use their loyalty to generate new consumers, a new set of consumers to become interested in your product, right? So an example might be referral marketing, where existing consumers are asked to send out a word of mouth signal to their friends in the social network, and if their friends also purchase the product, then both the friend who purchased and both the consumers who send out the referral, both of them get some kind of a break or some kind of a coupon or some kind of a benefit, right? So this is an example of trying to leverage on people who already may be loyal towards your brand, right? The idea of this discussion is to show you that brands may have different objectives, and these objectives map onto different stages of the consumer journey because you want to elicit different kind of consumer behavior in order to meet their business objective, right? And as these examples, this discussion shows that different kinds of media are able to implement or able to achieve this objective, that a business may have much more effectively, right? So this is how the mapping goes on between a particular business objective and the adoption of a particular kind of digital media. Okay, so the basic principles to keep in mind are: first, think about the business objective or goal. Then think about what stage of the customer journey this objective or goal maps onto. And then think about what type of media actually is able to influence the customer at that stage of the customer journey, and how should this kind of media be implemented, right? So if you're choosing to do search advertising, should it be done through branded keywords or unbranded keywords, for example, right? So it's the same idea of search advertising, but you're implementing it in different ways. If you want to influence the awareness stage, you want to do non-branded search advertising. On the other hand, if you are trying to influence the mid-funnel stage, mid part of the customer journey, you might want to do branded search advertising, right? And of course, remember that you are not restricted to using only one type of media at a particular stage of the customer journey. You can use different kinds of media at different stages.